Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Monday, July 25th, 2022. This is live stream 809. I think. I'm pretty sure it is. All right. That might not be gospel. But I'm pretty sure it's 809. So welcome aboard. If you're not familiar with the stream, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news normally, and then taking a first look or even possibly reviewing a tabletop game. Tonight, there is no news. So there will be no news tonight because things have been crazy hectic. And I'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But I really didn't have time to put together a news portion of the show. So we are going to actually start off by taking a first look at Hyperborea. That's right. We're going to be peeking at the player's manual, which is from Northwind Adventures. So that's coming up in just a couple of minutes or so. Anyway, if you're not familiar with me, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for popping on in and hanging out. Also want to point out, whenever you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. So, also, it's a live stream. Yay! That means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. You have to be a subscriber to the channel for a minimum of 48 hours before you can take part in chat. That is yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. So, of course, I was at San Diego Comic-Con this past week. My father is getting out of the hospital finally tomorrow. So tomorrow there might not be a news portion of the show either. All depends on how much time I've got. But that's awfully good news. So my dad is very excited, of course. Gonna have to keep an eye on him and help him out and things like that. But he's progressing very nicely. So wanted to give you a heads up as far as that's going. Anyway, so who do we got in chat? We got Joshua Edwards. We've got Bruno Lampria. I know I just destroyed that. Sorry. We got Bruno L. Coco B is with us. And our first of the chat moderators has joined the festivities. Yes, that's right. Flaming Huron is in the house. And Jason Bradley's with us. So hopefully everybody has had an excellent past few days. I know not much activity on the Gaming Gang while I was gone. I will talk about San Diego Comic-Con after we take a peek at the player's manual for Hyperborea so that those who are tuning in because they want to see that first look and really don't care about Comic-Con don't have to sit around for 20 minutes while I talk about it. But if you want to chat a little bit about my experience at Comic-Con this year, hang out, relax, take a load off. You worked hard. It's probably been a rough day. Unwind and relax. All right, with that said, I am going to have a swing on over to the other camera because here I've got, well, I shouldn't say over to the other camera. See, it never fails. I take a few days off and I'm like, damn, what do I do next? What the hell? Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot to talk about like the author and how much you can pay for it and things like that. So the Hyperborea Player's Manual, once again, is from Northwind Adventures. It's written by Jeffrey P. I believe it's pronounced Talanian. And there are a slew of artists who have contributed to this book. The 324-page hardcover, I believe, is available now. I think you can order it over at hyperborea.tv. It does carry an MSRP of $50, or you can grab the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG, normally for $12. And right now it is Christmas in July over at DriveThruRPG. So you could actually get this book in PDF for $10.20. That is a smoking deal. Sweet. So how about we now swing on over to the other camera? What can I tell you? What can I tell you? Oh, I got some fun stories for San Diego Comic-Con. I'll be sharing with you more interesting, little breakdowns and not in the equipment, but more along the lines of the users of the equipment. Callahan Clatt is with us as well, pointing out that they've got a new job. It conflicts with the schedule of the show. So unfortunately, most days they can't hang out, but today is different. So welcome aboard. Good to see you. All right. So this had a very, very successful Kickstarter, and it actually fulfilled. I received mine probably about 2 weeks ago. It was just after we had ended our June role-playing game celebration, our fantasy RPG celebration. And of course, my dad had the heart attack. He had the bypass surgery. Then we had Comic-Con. So I would have shared this a lot sooner with you. All week long, we are looking at Hyperborea. So tonight is the player's manual. Tomorrow will be the referee's manual. And then we're going to double dip a little bit on Wednesday. And we are going to take a look at the Atlas as well as the first published adventure, which is the Late Trapper's Laments. So we will be checking that out. Mr. Eddie T and Sarah D, as well as David Weisberger, is with us. Welcome, everybody. So now we got 3 of our 4 chat moderators, making sure everybody behaves, which very rarely do they not. So there's nothing on the back for us to read, so don't have to worry about that. So we're going to jump on in. I do want to mention that a fan of the show actually was able to get me to get this. So they had reached out and had actually sent along a little well, not, I shouldn't say little. They made a donation through paypal.me/thegaminggang, and they paid for the Kickstarter bundle. I thought that was pretty sweet. I'll talk a little more about that on tomorrow's show. So this is not a review copy. So I can say this is terrible. No, I'm joking. Even if it was a review copy from somebody and it was terrible, I'd tell you. You know that. But this is not a review copy, so I don't have to go through, the usual disclaimer that nobody paid me to talk about this game. So, Hyperborea Volume 1. I'll be the first to admit, I do not know a ton about Hyperborea. Here we've got our, I believe there are some color plates in here as well. Got some of the credits as far as our artists. And hey, it's our pal Glenn Seal from Monkey Blood. Yes, very cool. Some acknowledgements, I should say. This is dedicated to John Eric Holmes, whose revision of Gary Gygax and David Arneson's original fantasy role-playing game laid the foundation for my humble start in this wonderful hobby. Holmes Basic was the first game that I used to run campaigns for heroic adventures for the other neighborhood kids. Very nice. We're not going to look at each and every page as we peek through. And of course, I'm staying up here picture in picture. So that means we'll be cutting off a little bit of the upper left portion of the book. And Crazy Jose 2000 has joined us saying they're looking forward to this review. I will point out this is not a review. This is a first, excuse me, I need a sip here. It's been a long day. It's been a long past few days. There we go. So Crazy Jose said they're looking forward to the review. This is only a first look. I have not cracked this open. So I am seeing everything in here for the first time, like many of you out there as well. I have been making some tweaks to the overhead camera so that maybe the text doesn't look so digital. It looks kind of, don't like the digital look of some of the videos I've shot recently, especially when we're looking at books. And hopefully the text is relatively clear. So I believe this is pretty much our player's handbook, like you would have seen back in the day with AD&D, although quite a lot more pages to it. So we're going to break down, we've got our introduction, character generation, stats, classes, background, equipment, sorcery, adventure, and combat, as well as an appendix. I believe, and I could be absolutely wrong, I believe that the setting of Hyperborea is supposed to be kind of a, I don't want to say science fantasy, because that kind of implies more of a science fiction vibe. I think the setting to this, and we see this in some of the classic Appendix N books, say like Jack Vance's Dying Earth, where it's kind of a fantasy setting, but there used to be a high-tech civilization that has essentially run across some cataclysm or has just, fell into ruin by some means. And Flaming Heron says that it is crystal clear on the text if you full screen it. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, of course, you would have to be looking at a pretty good size screen. So we get a primer here telling us some little bullet points about the setting itself. Talking a little bit about the week is 7 days, a month is 28 days, a year, 13 months, and a cycle, 13 years. So we got our creation steps. So you're going to generate your attributes, choose a class, develop a background, purchase equipment, determine starting spells, and record other statistics. Some discussion of leveling up. So we've got our breakdown. It's 3 to 18. So this is a retro clone, but it is not just a complete, just a revamp of the original mechanics. of D&D. So we see that we've got hit point adjustments. Well, let's jump back to strength real quick. We have attack modifier, damage adjustment, test of strength. It's super dusty down here tonight. And I don't know why. Weird. So, alrighty. So we got strength. So you got your score, attack modifier, damage adjustment, test of strength, and extraordinary feat of strength. So dexterity, we have a attack modifier for missile weapons, a defense adjustment, test of dexterity, and extraordinary feat of dexterity. Constitution, we've got an adjustment to hit points, poison radiation adjustment. See, there's radiation. So, like I said, kind of a bit of a science fantasy setting. Just along the lines of, okay, so I'll be very, very honest. I did not watch Thundar the Barbarian. I was way too old by that point to be watching those sorts of cartoons. But isn't that the same kind of thing? It's kind of a primitive society and everything built on the bones of a high-tech society that had collapsed. All right. So here we've got trauma survival, test of constitution, and extraordinary feat of constitution. Intelligence provides you with languages or you're illiterate. Let's see, magician's bonus spells cast per day and chance to learn new spells. We've got wisdom. So we have willpower adjustment. We have cleric's bonus spells and chance to learn spells. Then we have charisma. So we have reaction loyalty adjustments, maximum number of henchmen, and undead turning adjustment. Ooh, look at that. No dump stat here for charisma. So if you plan on being a cleric, I guess you're going to have to put some points into charisma. That's kind of an interesting twist. So far, artwork's pretty solid. I'm digging it so far. So our other stats are armor class, casting ability, fighting ability, hit dice, movement, saving throws, and turning ability, which is turning undead. I always thought, and once again, here we have our classes. We'll go through these. But I was going to say, I always thought the previous editions, because this is actually the third edition of Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. Now it's just Hyperborea. I thought they have like a matrix. Like each class has like a combat matrix or something along those lines. And I think there's also a matrix for casters as well. So it looks like we have a good number of subclasses here. So we've got our principal classes: fighter, magician, cleric, thief. And then we've got our fighter subclasses. So we got 7 of those, including paladins and rangers. Hey, warlock. There you go. That's nice. You can play a bit of an Elric character there. We've got our magician subclasses are 5. 5 for clerics, including the druid and shaman. And then we have the thief. So we have like an assassin. Bard is part of that as the subclass. Scout is part of that as well. So we're going to get into some terms and definitions. So here's our fighter. And then I'm going to take a guess from here. We're probably going to break down into the subclasses as well. Kevin R. Smith is with us. Hey, Kevin, good to see you. Coco points out, yup, Thundar was a post-apocalyptic world with a mix of science and sorcery. I would think you would probably be well suited for, say, a Hawk Moon kind of campaign with this. So we're getting our base classes, talking about the base classes here. So I guess we're going to get our base classes and then go into our subclasses. I thought maybe we would have like thief, and then we'd have the bard, assassin, so on. Kind of a mix of artwork here. Some of it I like, some of it I'm not necessarily overly keen on from what I've seen so far. That's not a huge knock, really, because if you think about it, the original Dungeons and Dragons books, that artwork was pretty god awful most of the time. Now remember, I'm talking OD&D. I'm not saying AD&D, although AD&D had some pretty crappy artwork in some of the core books too. And I'm not saying the artwork's crappy. I'm just saying it seems to be a mixed bag, and everybody has their own sort of preference when it comes, especially to line art. All right, so we get a color plate here. Okay. This has more of a comic book style to it. Oh, so we get the first of our bookmarks. Slip that on out. As far as the production quality of this book, cover is matte, has a matte finish, but it's not one of those matte finishes that tends to rub off easily. And the paper stock is very nice. It is very nice paper stock. And it's not cheap and kind of chintzy like a few major companies out there who I won't name names. Kevin says, so we have barbarians and berserkers getting into some really fine distinctions. Yes, I would certainly think so. I would think your berserker is going to be more of a kind of a Norse explorer, maybe. I don't know. Once again, this is all brand new to me. And some of the things I'm sharing about Hyperborea is just things that I've heard before. Once again, maybe I'm wrong. So, but just kind of some things that I had kind of thought was in the system. So we're just kind of trying to get an idea of what we're looking at here. So witch would practice alchemy, be able to brew potions, have a familiar. They would also get spells, I would assume. Yep, here we go. Spells cast per day. So it looks as if we get 2 or 3 pages devoted to each of these subclasses. That's pretty cool. I wonder how well they do with the monk. Some people love monks, talking D&D, old D&D. Some people really loved monks and other people just despised them. Just because, I think it was because they came up with all these mechanics and abilities and things like that that monks would have, and they were really overpowered. So we got a priest. We've got a rune graver, which is a cleric subclass. It's a mystic warrior who carves sorcerer's runes on bone, metal, stone, and wood. Graving is a heritable craft taught to precocious young warriors. So it looks like kind of a more leaning towards a fighter, possibly. Fighter style, maybe more combat heavy than a traditional cleric would be. There's our assassin. Bard. So far, we've got a lot of page space devoted to the classes. There's our scout. The scout is a cunning explorer and reconnoiter of castles, towers, and subterranean milieu. So here we've got our alignment. So we do have the 8 points. No, it's 9, right? Isn't it 9? I don't know. Duh. Lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil, neutral good, neutral evil, neutral, chaotic good, chaotic evil, chaotic neutral. Yeah, that's 9. Why did I say 8? I got to be honest, I've never been a big fan of alignment, except for NPCs and creatures and monsters and things like that. Now, as an example, if somebody wanted to play a paladin, I get it. Yes. I would kind of try to lock them a bit into playing more towards an alignment. Others, eh. Coco says the text sounds like low Gygaxian. All right, so we got skills. So we got some discussion of religions here. So we have secondary skills. Okay, so let's see. How is it going to change? So we've actually got, looks like we have 60. And it looks like it's more like careers. So we have an armorer, miller, miner, locksmith, teamster, and so forth. Is what we see here. Now we've got equipment. So armor, we've got no armor, padded, leather, studded, scale mail, chain mail, laminated. My armor is made out of these laminated floor tiles. Kevin asks, is that better or worse than high Gygaxian? I would think maybe low Gygaxian is a little easier to understand for the common folk. So we have banded mail, splint mail, plate mail, full plate, and field plates. So, and then we get a breakdown with their armor classes. Hey, we get some images of their various different weapons. So here's our melee weapon list. Now we start getting into things like tridents, footman's mace, horseman's hammer. So good mix. Looks like we're looking at damage of 1d4 through. Looks like we've got 1d10. Oh no, 2d6. So that's for a bastard sword or a hand and a half. We get some descriptions of them as well. That's cool. I always like to see stuff like this because the average person couldn't tell you the difference between a flail, a mace, and a morning star. And when you're first learning these, fantasy role-playing games and stuff, it's kind of like, ah. So Kevin asks, how many pole arms? Well, we got a few here, also here, also there. Although that says it's a spiked staff. So good number of them. We've got our tridents. So missile weapons. We have thrown weapons and launched weapons. So blowgun, longbow, composite longbow, short bow, composite short bow, heavy, light, and repeating crossbows as well. Then we have, looks like we had vessels, got services, food and drink, transportation. It's like poison. We got a section on using poison and making poison. All right, so now we get into spells. Okay, here's our spellcraft. Casting magic spells is an integral component of the sword and sorcery milieu. Magicians and their respective subclasses practice. Oh man, I never get that word right. Thaumaturgical sorcery. I know, I said it wrong. They study arcane tomes, trace weird diagrams and geometric shapes, recite incantations and eldritch formulae, and perform bizarre hand gestures. That open conduits to planes of positive and negative energy. And then discussion of clerics. Of course, their source of magic power is going to be different because they're going to receive that through a deity, not through respective energies. So here we've got our spells. So these are for magicians. I'll tell you what, that is a good number of first level spells. Second level, so what are we looking at? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. 32 second level, 33rd level. That's very cool because a lot of times you'll see. So Omenal has arrived. Says High Gygaxian is the reason why their vocabulary is extensive as Omenal's trying to catch up at 2 times speed. Oh, God, I can't even imagine what my voice sounds like. And the dictionary and thesaurus are Omenal's friends, and they should be your friends too. But as I was saying, it's usually, you'll see a lot of times many games, many retro clones will have 10 to 12 spells per level. And sometimes when you get to the higher levels, there might only be 8 spells. Here we've got quite a bit. And then, are we double dipping on these? I think we might. So we've got our Cryomancer. Maybe not. Well, there's got to be some crossover here. Illusionist, Necromancers, Witches, Clerics. So these are our lists. So what do we get? So clerics get fewer spells to choose from, but still, that looks like what, about 18? Yeah. Oh, sorry, 20. 20 first level spells. So that's still quite a lot of spells. Here we have some more color art. See, now this looks like this would be something out of like Gamma World. Got a little gonzo. So then we get into the spells and their descriptions. Nice. They look nice and concise, which is always my friend. I know some folks out there, well, I mean, if you look at like 5e, the spell descriptions many times are pretty long. And I say it constantly that, and I know there are game masters out there who are like, well, you know what, those spells, those are the player's responsibilities to memorize what they do. And I give them that. But the problem is, what happens when your NPCs have those spells too? Should be utilizing those assets to throw challenges in front of your players. So we got a lot of spells here. I wonder if we're going to finish up the book. Oh, no, we still have combat. We got combat to get into. But yeah, a lot of pages devoted to spells. And that's cool. I mean, you can't have a sword and sorcery game without sorcery. So I'm curious, and I'll find out when I actually read the book. Kind of curious if this game goes in the direction where sorcery is dangerous. It is not something that everyone has access to. This is certainly not a high fantasy setting where there's going to be magic everywhere. So I'm Kind of wondering. I mean, although a lot of the magic, some of the spells were pretty traditional sort of D&D spells. So here we've got mercenaries, specialists, talking. Okay, so here's our combat or adventure actions. Talking about climbing indoors, light, always super important, especially dungeon crawls. If you're doing dungeon crawls with your players, got to track that light because those dungeons, unless the creatures or denizens who occupy it, if they happen to need light sources, yeah, okay, then there should be some light in some areas. But if they don't, it should be dark. Darker than dark. Becoming lost. So looks like we've got some mechanics in here, just about kind of traditional gameplay. The encounter. Now we get into combat. So we actually, looks like we've got a weapon class. So it looks like the different weapons will have a different reach. Talking about movement. So I have a cautious advance, double move, half move, and engage, or charge attack. So I guess a standard move and attack is available, but you only get to move half your allotment. Initiative, surprise, morale. Something else that I try to point out to especially new game masters out there. If your game has NPC morale or hirelings or mercenaries or whatever, if there's morale in the mechanics of the game, you want to use it. You really do. Because that way you're not going to be fighting every single battle to the final, final combatant's gone. Omanel says, good to see morale. I like utilizing morale, even if you're using some really basic, where you're not having modifiers, based on situation or anything like that. Just have some form of morale, or even if you don't want to be rolling morale, have kind of an idea of where you feel that, the combatants that your players are facing, at what point would they throw in the towel and say, hey, you know what? I'd rather stay alive. Run away, run away. So we have advanced combat actions, such as indirect fire, reckless fighting, saddle casting, shield bash, shield cover for an ally, shield wall, 2-weapon fighting, critical hits, and critical misses. We've got some more color art. There you go. Barbarian, obviously enough. Or Berserker. Although, traditionally, didn't Berserkers strip nude? I could have swore I remembered that. I could be wrong. Saving throws. Special damage. That artwork's kind of cool. So is that. Okay, so we've got some appendices. So we got name generator. Right off the bat, love it. I can't tell you how many people I know just breeze through player character generation and then get hung up on what is this character going to be named. Zero Theory is with us. Welcome aboard. Oh my gosh, look at this. Frankish names, Greek names, Celtic names, Moorish names, Pictish names, Viking names. See what other appendices we've got. We're still looking at names there. Lordship and strongholds. All right, maybe a little domain play. I would think that would be more apt to have much more detail in the referee's manual than here. Cooperative gaming. Role-playing games are cooperative efforts in which the participants include one referee or game master who creates and or organizes the game's materials, enforces its rules and procedures, and arbitrates what is unclear. The other participants, the game's players, control the actions of their player character in a theater of the imagination. The rules of Hyperborea help govern many possibilities. The referee is burdened with the task of balancing it all. Oh, yes, they do. All right, and then we get an index. And that is our 324 pages of Hyperborea, which is essentially the third edition of Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. Bri G is with us, says, lots of berserkers went nude or wore animal skins while raged out on shrooms. 245 Trioxins here with us as well. Flaming Heron says, yeah, rare to see battles that actually end early unless it's the GM making the call. Yes, where the GM says, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. We're finished here. I have seen, not that thankfully I've never taken part in adventures like this, but I have seen at conventions or game days or what have you, game masters running a game that it just is like your 4-hour session is one long combat. And I'd be like, no. I don't play that way. I'd be like, no, thank you. All right. So let's swing on over to the other camera. Once again, you can order the 324-page hardcover for an MSRP of $50. You can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG. Normally for $12, but because it is Christmas in July over at DriveThruRPG, you can get it right now for $10.20. And I'll tell you what, this doesn't have to be the most fantastic game you've ever run across, and it might be. I don't know. I haven't read it. But $10.20 for all that page count, there's got to be something you can use. Gots to be. 245 Trioxins that should be able to fit 1.5 combats into 4 hours. At least, right? These newbie DMs. Experienced DMs, they know 1.5 combats. So tomorrow, we're going to look at the referee's manual. Yes. So I was talking about DriveThruRPG. I should also mention that the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go over to DriveThruRPG, take advantage of that Christmas in July sale, stop by thegaminggang.com first, click on one of our banner ads. That way, whatever purchase you might happen to make, I get a very small percentage of that. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Should also mention, right now there is currently a sale going on over at Hyperborea. We've only been looking at the game for, I don't know, 35 minutes. Now I can't remember how to pronounce it. There is a sale going on at Hyperborea.tv. You can get the 3 major books. So you get the Player's Handbook, Referee's Manual, and the Atlas. And I will point out, the Atlas is soft cover and looks like it's maybe 40 pages or so. but you can get all three for $100 as opposed to $115. Omanel says, and on a cliffhanger. Kevin says, $10 is a nice deal. I agree. That's why I mentioned it. I'm like, it's a pretty slamming deal for you to be able to grab that. All right. So that is our look at Hyperborea, at least the player's manual of Hyperborea. So if you were hanging out, you want to talk a little bit about San Diego Comic-Con, I'm more than happy to answer any questions but I'll be the first to admit, you can't see everything at San Diego Comic-Con. It's impossible. And every time we go, we leave and we're always like, man, we hardly saw anything. So it's like, so we had a really good time. We had a blast. Things were different, which we assumed. We figured that was going to be it. They had cut back a lot on, the swag and the freebies and the free booze and food and stuff like that for the press, which I figured was coming. I was like, okay. We did have a couple of parties, so that was cool. So usually our nights, we were getting some free adult beverages and all, but not like past years where it'd be like, well, if this party is crap, we got invites to this party and that party. So now I did have it like that. And of course, I had mentioned that for the first time ever, I was selected for the Funko, the chance to buy the Funko exclusives, which had never happened before. Usually we'll get like a Hasbro or a Mattel or something. We never get shut out, but it was pretty wild. It was like, holy cow, these people are nuts for these Funkos. And I like Funko. I think they're cool, but I don't know. So I did pick some up for myself. I'll show you what I got in just a minute. And pick some up to put on eBay. Why not? So I did that as well. But it was really wild because I got in the line because luckily I was the first thing Saturday morning. And there were already a couple that were sold out. I don't know if they were sold out for the show or sold out for the day. But the funny thing is, I did interviews with Funko, Mondo, and also Loungefly. And they gave me a swag bag that had a bunch of stuff in it, including 5 pops. And 2 of them were the ones that were sold out. I was like, oh, okay. Zero Theory said they GM'd Merkberg for the first time yesterday. Rules light aspect and random tables really brings the fun. Sweet. Very nice. So anyway, so I'm standing in line and all these people are coming up and they're like, hey, are you buying XYZ? And I'm like, no. And at first I was like, why are you asking me? I wasn't even thinking, right? And they'd be like, oh, could you pick it up for me? And I looked at him, I said, no. I said, sorry, I can't. Oh, come on. I'm like, for one, I'm press, so I can't do that. I said, and if they catch me taking orders from people, they're going to toss me out of this line, and then I won't have any opportunity at any Funko stuff. So most people were like, yeah, okay, all right, but one guy was just, oh, come on, man. Come on, it's just one pop. And I'm like, no. And it's like, not like I was the only person standing in line. It's like, but I did see him like asking other people. And Funko employees, or at least volunteers, whatever, they kept coming by and telling people, hey, keep moving. Keep moving. It's like, get a move on. So the ones that I'm keeping is the San Diego Comic-Con toucan. So they did 2 of them. One, and I believe these molds or designs have already come out previously, I think a few years back. But of course, they got the Comic-Con sticker on them. So there was a pirate, which I bought and I gave to my mom. Because I always get her some exclusive thing from the conventions I go to. Then I bought this one. It's a rocker with a guitar. That's for me. Then one of the exclusives was Cassian Andor, who has a new series coming to Disney Plus. So I picked that up. And Alicent Hightower, who is a character from House of the Dragon, which is coming to HBO. So we've got that. Ted Lasso, because I really like the show. Yeah. He's just standing there with his hands in his pockets. Yep. And then lastly, I have Peacemaker. So these are the pops that I bought, I'm keeping. And we shall see them shortly behind me. You'll see them in the background there. I took my hat and moved it. I didn't realize I'm standing here. Not standing, sitting here like, yeah, cricket hat on. So there were some things about Comic-Con that was very disappointing. As Omanel points out, people are jonesing for Funko like they do for drugs. It's the new fix, says Flaming Heron, or asks, is it the new fix? So anyway, so I actually got approved to 4 panels. I should say press rooms, not panels, press rooms. And it was the Green Lantern animated movie that just came out from Warner Brothers. The Orville, New Horizons, although Seth MacFarlane, I don't know if he was there. He wasn't supposed to be there. Paper Girls, which I believe is coming from Amazon, if I remember right, based on I'm not sure if it's a graphic novel or if it's a comic series, but it looked pretty interesting. It looked kind of cool. And gosh, what was the last one? There was one last one. I'm zoning. I am zoning out. Okay, so I don't know who decided this is how things are going to be now. So you had options, which of course you had to pick your option before you got there, right? So when you requested an opportunity to get into the press room for a round table, you could either do the press line, which you have your camera, photographers are taking pictures, blah, blah, blah. You get 2 questions. Or what I prefer to do is sit in at the round tables, and the talent and producers and things like that, directors, they'll sit there at the table for about 7 minutes and everybody gets to ask a question. So I prefer that because it's it's a conversation. Whereas if you're on the press line, everybody could be asking the same 2 questions. And then you basically have a 30 to 40 second clip. Well, if I ran Entertainment Tonight, I guess that'd be great because I've got all this other stuff that I could put in there. But seriously, am I the type of guy who's going to put up a video that's 40 seconds long? No. So anyway, what we've done in the past is had a camera, right? The camera's right here. So it's in your space. It's not invading anyone else's space whatsoever, including the talent. And they sit down, start recording. People are asking questions. Oh, it's time for the next person. Okay. Asking questions and then edit it and things like that. No cameras at the table. I was like, what? Like, seriously? No cameras, no recording at the table. Now, I don't know if when they meant no recording like digital recorders too, because there was a lot of print media in these press rooms. So I and other people at every single one of these left. Because it's like, what are you going to do? No recording. It's like, okay, well, I'm not using my mics because I use lav mics, right? I now use lav mics. They're wireless. I can't mic somebody up. They won't let you, they're not going to let you touch anybody. So even audio, I don't know. I have no idea. So I was like, excuse my French, everybody. Because I know once in a while we have some kids watching, but I was like, fuck that. It's like, I was like, geez, what the hell? What the hell's going on? Who came up with this idea? And it was at all of them. So I don't know if these were press rooms for like, if they thought the press rooms were more aimed for print media. And if you wanted any sort of photos or video, you had to be in the press line. I thought it was weird. If you want, you can actually take a peek at the last Comic-Con we went to before, the pandemic. We sat in at a panel, I should say press room for both. What the hell was that show? With Zach, the Haunted Show. I know a lot of people, and I like paranormal shows. I'm not just, Ghost Adventures. Sat in on that, which amazingly enough, that is still one of the top videos on the Gaming Gang channel. We had also done a true roundtable with the cast from Man in High Castle, which was very, very cool. So if you want to see what a real round table looks like, check out the Man in the High Castle video that's on the channel. It'll give you a pretty decent idea. Although I don't think the video itself, I mean, the questions that are all cool, but the actual quality of the video is not all that great. But still, I was like, what moron came up with this? And of course, like every time we go to San Diego Comic-Con, nobody knows nothing. Nobody has a clue. They're put in charge of something and they don't even know what that something is. And I understand. I mean, this thing is huge. I am going to bet, though, that the attendance is down. So my prediction is, and I have not seen anything today. Maybe it's floating around out there. About 95,000 to 100,000. Because they didn't sell any passes, except to exhibitors, obviously enough. So anybody who was there as an attendee, and maybe even the press, all rolled over from 2020. And some people probably said, no, I want my money back. Even though it's almost impossible to get, tickets, passes to Comic-Con. But my brother Greg and my best friend Elliot, we had a lot of fun. We had a really good time. Another aspect of San Diego that I am not too fond of is the habit of all the restaurants within about a mile of the convention center jacking their prices through the roof. And I know it's the gas lamp. It's like a party district and stuff like that. I understand. Should be a little bit higher. But I mean, they were looking $35 for a burger, no fries, pitcher of beer. We were at one place. It was just Elliot and I. I said, "Hey man, you want to split a pitcher?" We were waiting to go to this one party. And he said, "Yeah, sounds good." And I said, "I got it." And it wasn't a big pitcher. It wasn't a little mini pitcher, but it was not a big pitcher. It was maybe, I'm going to take a wild guess, because they gave us plastic cups, little plastic cups, 22 ounces is my guess. $30. And it was Coors Light. Jeez. But thankfully, there was a place nearby the hotel we stayed at that was, just restaurant bar. And I was in there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then unfortunately, because they didn't have enough staff, they weren't open on Saturday or Sunday, because I guarantee I would have gone back in there probably Saturday for dinner or something. So Flaming Huron says, well, that's usual. They do whatever they can get away with. Yes, and it's funny because none of them ever have like printed menus anymore. So they don't have like menus like out front. You can just take a peek before you walk in, sit down. Everybody's got a QRC. So you bring it up and you're looking and you're like, what? $15 for fries? But yeah, I get it. I mean, plus past 2 Comic-Cons were canceled. So I'm sure a lot of those places were hurting. I went home and I was like, wow. Flaming Huron says, sounds idiotic. Talking about the no cameras at the table. Can't see a reason for not being able to record it. Yeah, I know. It was weird. It was very, very weird. It was super disappointing because I was like really excited about the Orville. The other show, God, I can't remember. I'm kicking myself. Oh, hey, at least Elliot got to go and check out. William Shatner had some like presentation with Leonard Maltin where they were doing handprints. And he said that was pretty cool. He enjoyed that because Elliot did not have a pass. And he was supposed to get a pass from somebody. Long story, not going to get into it. It's just really irritating because it was somebody who was supposed to ask. They were told umpteen times to ask. I told you it's weirdly dusty down here tonight. Anyway, so Elliot didn't have a pass and didn't realize he wasn't going to have a pass at all until Saturday. So I was giving him my pass to use. My brother gave him his pass a few times. The two of us hung out. But I got him into the William Shatner thing because you didn't need a press pass. It was outside the convention. So I had gotten an email inviting me to go. And I said, hey, I'm going to send somebody who's part of my team. So that was it. You got in. So he got to hang out with the press and everything there. Because, I mean, he was press. He's going to be press again. Hopefully, one of these years. MC is with us in chat saying howdy. Kevin asks, I wonder which was more expensive, downtown restaurant food or hotel food? Downtown restaurant food, actually, and drinks. So lastly, I'll talk real quick about this party that the three of us went to. I had gotten a press invite, so I RSVP'd. And it was the Tim Burton Bash. And it was like a celebration of Tim Burton movies. Now, and Tim Burton was not going to be there. I guess he had like a recorded message or something like that. And it was probably, thanks a lot, suckers. So I received a ticket to go to the party. And it was like 3 levels. So there was a VIP rooftop, which I got the wristband to go to. Then there was a $50 ticket that got you onto the first floor. And then there was a VIP. The VIP ticket was $100, and that also got you into the VIP lounge, which was up on the roof. And we're not talking some huge place. So anyway, so all the press had yellow wristbands. All the VIPs had red, and then I think the general admission $50, I think it was green. So normally, as I'd mentioned before, press get invited to these parties. There's usually complimentary food and drinks. Not at this. It was like, are you serious? And I was talking to somebody else who was a press member, and they said, yeah, this is really weird. I walked up there to ask about, what's the wristband? And they're like, I don't know, got you in the door. And we were talking about, well, if it just got you in the door and we're VIPs up here, why didn't they just give us a VIP wristband? So I hung out for a half hour, but I tried to talk my brother and Elliot not to buy these tickets, but Elliot was hell bent on going to this party. And my brother didn't want to be sitting around doing nothing because the party was like supposed to be 6 hours. It was from like 8 until 2 a.m. And I was like, all right, I'm out of here, guys. They're like, what? You're leaving? I'm like, yeah, fuck this. I'm like, there's nothing going on. I mean, there were a lot of people there. And here, the drinks, the reason why I mentioned this, the discussion of what was more expensive, drinks or food, and that at the restaurants or at the hotels. It was $17.50 for a tequila and soda, because that's what Elliot had. And then he decided, well, you know what? I'm going to change things up. I'm just going to have a Modelo, which, if you're not familiar, it's just a beer. And that was $17.50. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, but like I said, I had a really good time, and I just wish I had more content to share with you. So I've got my interviews with Mondo and Loungefly and Funko, which are, I don't think a single one of them is more than 8 minutes long, because we only had a short period of time. And then I sat in on, it was actually a very entertaining panel. The creator and artist, Rob Liefeld, who created Deadpool. If you don't know who Rob Liefeld is, that's one of his creations. He was one of the forming members of Image Comics. Anyway, so fun panel, and I've got that. And then I went to talk to the folks who are behind Cyanide and Happiness and their card game. What is it? Joking Matter or something like that. They have a new card game coming out. They wanted to talk to me about that. And they had such a small area that I couldn't. I was like, there's no way we're shooting video. I'm like, and I can't put a camera, even with a monopod, outside of your booth. So I just did an audio recording with them. So yeah, that's actually it. Here I was thinking, wow, man, I'm going to have 4 press panels, round tables. This is going to be sweet, because we normally only get like 1 or 2. But no cameras at the table. It'd be one thing if I sat there and I brought in like a picture and asked them to sign it, to autograph it. Yes, I could see that is a no-no. You do not ask the talent for any favors, autographs, pictures, nothing. So I mean, that'd be one thing, but just doing your job, I don't know. So Flaming Heron says, wow, this is getting worse. The food costing more than the flight and accommodation would have cost. Thankfully, I flew on a pass. So my round trip ticket was $95. So I can tell you before, I wasn't going to be blowing a whole ton of money. But yeah, for me, it was, the most expensive thing was food. Not buying Funko Pops. It was the food. And, picking up a pitcher of beer or a round of drinks every once in a while. I was like, oh my God. Oh my jeez. Anyway, Kevin says they just had Gem City Comic Con this past weekend, but didn't have a chance to go. I got to be honest, the cons here in Chicago, we have C2E2 and we used to have Wizard World. Now I think it's called Fan Expo. It's going to be the same thing, just different name. To me, they're nothing to write home about. But once again, when you go to San Diego now I've never gone to New York. You used to get approved for passes to go to New York Comic Con all the time and just never was able to get out there. Never could get somebody to go with me. Well, I take that back. I always had somebody going and they always backed out. So that's how that went. Omanal says, Adepticon. I have been invited to go check out Adepticon, but I have kind of also been told that I really can't interview people and stuff like that. I don't know. That was a few years ago because I had thought of doing that. It was like, oh yeah, you're welcome. And it was like, yeah, you don't need a ticket or anything. But they said, we really don't want you interacting with people since you don't have a ticket. I was like, so why let me attend anyway? I mean, what would I do? Just shoot some video, take some pictures. That's it. Omanal says, Belton Comic Con is in 2 weeks. Much cheaper, but a lot less impressive. Yeah, they all are. I mean, once you go to Comic Con out in San Diego or New York, or even Emerald City up in Seattle, you're pretty jaded for all the other cons out there as far as pop culture and comics. So looking forward to Gen Con. Gonna have a lot of time to cover there. I'm got quite a few interviews already set up. So there will be far more content. Oman said, don't want to interact with people. I guess basically what they were saying is if I wanted to go, I could be a fly on the wall kind of thing, like observe. So I don't know. Flaming Heron says, at least you'll be able to record things for Gen Con. Maybe they get wind of this whole. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Always able to record. Gen Con's my favorite show. My favorite convention. Love it. I like it. I mean, I'm not knocking San Diego Comic-Con. I had a good time. It's just really not my show. I don't collect comics. Yeah, sure. I watch all the, hottest sci-fi and fantasy series and things like that. But I certainly wouldn't camp out for 2 days to get into Hall H for a panel. No. All right. So, just hanging out. Kind of a different show tonight without the news and that. But what can I tell you? Like I said, tomorrow night, I am not sure if there's going to be a news portion or not because my dad's coming home. He's supposed to be home about 11 o'clock in the morning. So we've got a lot of stuff we got to do. So to help him around the house here, because he is using a walker, although he was motoring along with that walker pretty well. So he's probably not going to be using it for too long, but got to make sure that the house is safe for him. All right. Anyway, that is it for this time out. If you like, by all means, I did an see, I hate when I take days off from doing this show because then I completely forget what I normally do. I had an intermission video, but you know what? It was a rerun. So you're not missing anything. It was all stuff I'd done before. All right. So anyway, if you like this video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Ding the bell. You know the deal. And of course, don't forget, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. And yes, thank you everybody for commenting about my dad's recovery. Yes, he's doing well. He is doing well. Flaming Heron says, Wilkins wanted to kill Wontkins tonight. I don't think it was a Wontkins dies little ad in that one that I had lined up. Anyway, you know the drill. Go visit thegaminggang.com. And I'll be back tomorrow. Once again, we are going to be taking a peek at Hyperborea. This time, the referee's manual. And of course, I've got some other things on the horizon as well. We'll get into that a little more also. All right. So everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be. I'll be back tomorrow. If you watch live, appreciate it. If you took part in chat while watching live, extra experience points for you there. But of course, I know a lot of people don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you kindly. And of course, here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.
Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.